The human pet lunged for Talaxian Commander Kalar's throat as he inspected the alien ship, startling him so badly his twin reptilian hearts nearly seized in his armored chest. Kalar's deep blue scales bristled, his piercing yellow eyes narrowed on the wild human male gripping the bars of its cage, snarling. The 7-foot-tall reptilian humanoid tightened his jaw. He could not show fear in front of his subordinates. Just minutes earlier, Kalar had been aboard his personal shuttle, racing to this remote outpost on the fringes of Talaxian space. An urgent message from the base commander had reported an unknown alien vessel trespassing in their star system. Kalar ordered the commander to monitor the situation and prepare confrontation as his sleek black ship, equipped with advanced stealth technology, sliced through the void. The alien ship, now impounded in the outpost's docking bay, was named TSS Odyssey according to hull markings. It appeared to be a heavily armed and armored exploration vessel of human origin based on initial scans. Humanity, an emerging spacefaring species at the edges of Talaxian territory, one that had been making increasingly bold incursions past the border, refusing all hails. High Command had standing orders to detain any human trespassers for interrogation. Kalar now found himself staring down that trespasser. The male human captive glowered at him from inside its cell, teeth bared, hands white-knuckled on the bars. Bipedal, with pale skin and close-cropped dark fur on its head. Kalar wondered if all of the humans' kind were this bare and ugly. "What is this thing the humans keep as a pet?" Kalar asked the outpost commander, mandibles flexing in distaste. "It seems rabid." The base commander, a shorter Talaxian with rust-colored scales, gulped. "Our scans identified it as a human, sir." "What?" Kalar's head whipped around. The captive let out a harsh bark of laughter. "That's right, you overgrown lizard." The human captive spoke in passable Talaxian, voice dripping with derision. "I'm Captain Sean Jenkins of the TSS Odyssey. I'm no one's fucking pet. And you've just captured a Terran Federation officer. So I suggest you let me out of this cage and return me to my ship, before my crew rips yours apart." Kalar's hearts hammered as the severity of the situation sank in. If word got out that they had imprisoned a human captain, it could spark a diplomatic incident or war. He needed to contain this, fast. The Talaxian commander leaned in close to the cell, locking eyes with his snarling captive. "Listen carefully, human," Kalar hissed. "Right now, you are at my mercy. I suggest you start cooperating before I lose my patience. You will tell me everything about your illicit mission in Talaxian space, or else." Kalar's shuttle rocketed towards the alien ship, engines roaring. As the craft drew closer, a flicker of movement caught the commander's eye. He squinted, leaning forward. There, on the Odyssey's hull. Some creature was skittering across the ship's armored exterior, sleek and muscular with glowing blue eyes. It looked like a massive black canine, wearing what appeared to be a custom spacesuit. Kalar's eyes widened. The humans had attack beasts. He slammed a clawed hand down on the comms. "Unknown creature spotted on the human vessel. All ships, open fire. Take out their weapons." A storm of plasma bolts ripped through space, slamming into the Odyssey's shields. The human ship shuddered but held, its advanced defenses absorbing the onslaught. On the bridge, Captain Jenkins gripped his chair as alarms blared. "Shields holding at 80%, Lieutenant Chen reported from Tactical. "They're targeting our weapons." "Return fire," Jenkins barked. "Aim for their guns. I don't want casualties. Just disable them." The Odyssey's cannons roared to life, lancing out with pinpoint precision. Explosions blossomed along the Talaxian ships as their weapons went dark, reduced to twisted slag. Kalar stared in shock as half his fleet went dead in space. "Cease fire!" the commander shouted into the comms. "Stand down!" He turned to his pilot. "Get me a channel to that ship. Now!" Static filled the screen, then resolved into the bearded face of Captain Jenkins. The human looked furious. Kalar cleared his throat, mandibles flexing. "Human vessel. This is Commander Kalar of the Talaxian Imperium. I apologize for the misunderstanding. I believed your creature was a weapon. I acted hastily. Jenkins' brows furrowed. He barked something in an alien tongue, glancing off screen. A few moments later, a stiff computer voice issued from the speakers. Apology acknowledged. No casualties, minor damage only. Suggest meeting to discuss situation, avoid future conflict. Kellar felt a rush of relief. They had a translation matrix, primitive but functional. He leaned forward, speaking slowly and clearly. Agreed. Permission to come aboard your ship to talk. Another pause, then the computer voice again. Permission granted. Docking Bay 3, come unarmed, no weapons or threat. Kellar nodded, even as unease coiled in his gut. He turned to Zor, looming behind him. You're with me. We're going over there. No weapons, but stay alert. Minutes later, Kellar and Zor stepped onto the Odyssey, a hulking brute of a ship. Waiting for them was Captain Jenkins himself, along with a small honor guard, and sitting at the human's feet was the black canine, lips curled back to reveal gleaming fangs. Jenkins stepped forward, extending a hand. Welcome aboard the Odyssey. I'm Captain Sean Jenkins. This is Max, my companion. Let's talk peace, shall we? Kellar reached out hesitantly, grasping the human's hand. He could feel Zor tensing behind him as Max let out a low, rumbling growl. The massive hound had clearly sensed the guard's hostility. The air crackled with tension, neither side quite trusting the other. Kellar met Jenkins's eyes, saw his own unease reflected there. This meeting could go very well, or very, very badly. And with the horrifying creature at the human side, Kellar was no longer certain who held the advantage here. The tension in the air was palpable as Jenkins led Kellar and Zor through the corridors of the Odyssey. Max padded alongside them, his ears pricked and alert. Jenkins hoped that a tour of the ship's advanced technology would help ease the hostility between the two groups. And this is our medical bay, Jenkins said, gesturing to a set of sleek white pods lining the walls. Our regenerative pods can heal even the most severe injuries in a matter of hours. Kellar's eyes widened as he stepped closer to examine the pods. Impressive. How did your people develop such advanced technology? Jenkins hesitated for a moment before responding. We were forced to innovate during our war with the Krellians. They're a brutal race, known for their advanced biotechnology and ruthless tactics. We lost a lot of good people before we managed to turn the tide. Kellar nodded, his expression thoughtful. Perhaps there is an opportunity for trade between our empires. The Talaxian Empire could benefit greatly from such technology. Jenkins smiled, sensing an opening for a peaceful relationship. I agree. We should discuss this further, see if we can come to an agreement that benefits both our peoples. Suddenly the ship shuddered violently, nearly knocking them off their feet. Alarms blared throughout the Odyssey as the lights flickered. Ava, report, Jenkins barked. Captain, a Krellian stealth ship has attacked the Talaxian outpost, the AI responded, her voice calm despite the chaos. We're caught in the crossfire. Jenkins cursed under his breath. All hands to battle stations. Prepare to defend the outpost and the Talaxian ships. Max's hackles rose as he sensed the danger. He bolted for the airlock, ready to engage any Krellian boarders. The Odyssey shuddered again as the Krellians breached the hull. Max leaped into action, his enhanced speed and strength making him a blur as he tore into the invaders. Zor, despite his initial skepticism, joined the fray, his plasma staff humming as it sliced through Krellian armor like butter. Kellar watched the chaos unfold, his eyes wide with shock. He knew he had to act fast. All Talaxian ships, join forces with the Odyssey. We must fight off this Krellian attack together. The combined might of the Terran and Talaxian ships proved too much for the Krellians, who were forced to retreat, their stealth ship limping away into the void. In the aftermath of the battle, Jenkins and Kellar stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, both looking weary but determined. It seems we have a common enemy, Jenkins said, extending his hand. Perhaps it's time we put aside our differences and form an alliance against the Krellians. Kellar grasped Jenkins' hand firmly, His claws retracted in a show of trust. Agreed. The Talaxian Empire will stand with the Terran Federation against this threat. Max sat at Jenkins' feet, his glowing blue eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. He had proven himself a hero to both crews, and he would be ready to defend them again at a moment's notice. In the aftermath of their victory against the Krellian attack, Jenkins and Keeler worked tirelessly to solidify the newfound alliance between the Terran Federation and the Talaxian Empire. They met regularly, discussing strategies and sharing intelligence to better understand their common enemy. It was during one of these meetings that Ava, the Odyssey's AI, interrupted with urgent news. "Captain Jenkins, Commander Keeler, I've just received a report from our scout ships. The Krellians are amassing a massive fleet in the Zeta Centauri system, just a few light years from our current position." Jenkins and Keeler exchanged a grave look. They knew the Krellians were planning something big, but the scale of this mobilization was unprecedented. "We need to act fast," Jenkins said, his brow furrowed. "If we wait for them to make the first move, it may be too late." Keeler nodded, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "Agreed. We must strike first, catch them off guard before they can launch their invasion." They quickly devised a plan, one that would require the unique skills of both the Odyssey's crew and the Talaxian warriors. The Odyssey, with its advanced stealth technology, would infiltrate the Krellian fleet and sabotage their ships from within. Meanwhile, a team of Talaxian commandos, led by Zor and accompanied by Max, would board the Krellian flagship and plant explosives in critical locations. As the Odyssey approached the Krellian fleet, its stealth systems engaged, rendering it invisible to enemy sensors. Jenkins sat in the captain's chair, his eyes locked on the view screen as they wove through the sea of enemy ships. "We're in position," he said, his voice low and steady. "Zor, Max, you're up." In the Odyssey's hangar bay, Zor and his team of commandos stood ready, their plasma staffs humming with energy. Max stood at Zor's side, his battle suit gleaming under the harsh lights. With a nod from Jenkins, they boarded a small, stealthy shuttle and launched towards the Krellian flagship. As they approached, Max's enhanced senses picked up the presence of Krellian guards patrolling the ship's exterior. "We've got company," Max growled, his voice filtered through the suit's speakers. Zor grinned, his sharp teeth glinting. "Good, I was hoping for a challenge." The shuttle docked with the flagship, and the team quickly disembarked. They moved swiftly through the corridors, Max taking point, his keen nose guiding them towards the ship's power core. But as they rounded a corner, they found themselves face to face with a squad of Krellian soldiers. The Krellians opened fire, their plasma bolts sizzling through the air. Max leaped into action, his genetically enhanced body a blur of motion as he charged the Krellians. His powerful jaws clamped down on one soldier's arm, crushing bone and armor alike. Zor was right behind him, his plasma staff whirling in a deadly arc. He moved with a grace that belied his massive size, his staff slicing through Krellian armor like a hot knife through butter. Together, Max and Zor cut a path through the Krellian defenses, their unique abilities complementing each other perfectly. Max's raw strength and speed were matched by Zor's skill and finesse, and the Krellians fell before them like wheat before a scythe. As the commandos pushed deeper into the ship, Jenkins and the Odyssey engaged the Krellian fleet. The Terran ship darted through the enemy formation, its advanced weapons picking off key targets with surgical precision. The Talaxian fleet, led by Keeler, provided support, drawing fire away from the Odyssey and allowing Jenkins to focus on the most critical targets. The Talaxian ships, though not as advanced as the Odyssey, fought with a ferocity that belied their smaller size. Explosions blossomed across the void as ships on both sides were hit, their hulls rupturing and spilling debris and bodies into the cold vacuum of space. But the Terran-Talaxian alliance held strong, their coordination and determination a match for the Krellians' superior numbers. On the flagship, Max and Zor finally reached the power core. They quickly planted the explosives, setting the timers for a few minutes to give them time to escape. But as they turned to leave, they found their path blocked by a massive Krellian warrior. his armor bristling with weapons. He snarled at them, his eyes glowing with a feral light. "You will go no further," he growled, his voice like gravel. "This ship is my domain, and you will die here." Max and Zor exchanged a glance, then charged forward as one. The Krelian warrior met them head-on, his weapons spitting fire and death. It was a battle for the ages, a clash of titans in the heart of the enemy stronghold. Max and Zor fought with everything they had, their bodies pushed to the limit as they dodged and weaved around the Krelians' attacks. But even with their combined might, the Krelian warrior was a formidable opponent. His armor seemed impervious to their weapons, and his own attacks were devastatingly powerful. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, Max saw an opening. With a fierce growl, he launched himself at the Krelian, his jaws clamping down on the warrior's throat. At the same time, Zor brought his staff down in a mighty blow, the plasma blade slicing through the Krelian's armor and into his chest. The Krelian warrior fell, his body hitting the deck with a resounding crash. Max and Zor stood over him, panting heavily, their armor scorched and dented. "Let's get out of here," Max said, glancing at the timer on the explosives. "We don't have much time." They raced back to the shuttle, the explosions already beginning to ripple through the flagship's hull. They barely made it aboard before the ship was rocked by a massive detonation, the power core erupting in a blinding flash of light. The flagship exploded, the shockwave rippling out through the Krelian fleet. Ships were tossed about like toys, their hulls crumpling under the force of the blast. The remaining Krelian ships, now leaderless and in disarray, were quickly mopped up by the combined Terran-Talaxian forces. The battle was over, the day won. As the smoke cleared, Jenkins and Keeler stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, their faces lined with exhaustion but also with pride. They had done it, struck a blow against the Krelians that they would not soon forget. And then a transmission came through, a message from the Krelian High Command. They had seen the destruction of their flagship, the decimation of their fleet, and they knew they had been beaten. They were willing to enter into peace negotiations with the Terran Federation and the Talaxian Empire, to find a way to coexist in the galaxy. Jenkins and Keller exchanged a look of surprise and relief. They had hoped for victory, but never dared to dream of peace. But now, it seemed, anything was possible. As the Odyssey and the Talaxian fleet set course for the negotiations, Max limped onto the bridge, his battle suit scorched and dented but still functional. He had fought hard, risked everything for the cause, and now he bore the scars of that struggle with pride. Jenkins knelt down beside him, running a hand over Max's armored head. "You did good out there, boy," he said softly. "Real good. I'm proud of you." Max let out a contented growl, his tail wagging slightly. He knew he had done his part, had helped to bring about a new era of peace and cooperation between the races of the galaxy. And as he took his place beside Jenkins, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring, he knew that he would always be there, always ready to fight for what was right. For he was Max, the hero of the Terran Federation, the loyal companion of Captain Jenkins, and a symbol of hope for all who looked to the stars and dreamed of a better tomorrow. The peace negotiations between the Terran Federation, Talaxian Empire, and Krelians were tense, held in a stark grey conference room aboard a neutral space station. Captain Jenkins and Commander Keeler sat across from the Krelian delegation, led by Ambassador Zaxor. The tall, spindly alien had piercing red eyes that seemed to bore into Jenkins's soul. Zaxor cleared his throat, a rasping sound that echoed in the room. "There is something you must know," he began, his voice thin and reedy. "The Krelians. We were not acting alone in our aggression." Jenkins leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "We were manipulated," Zaxor explained, "by a race known as the Voidbringers. They used us as pawns in their scheme to conquer the galaxy." Keeler hissed, his scales bristling. "Voidbringers? I have never heard of them." Zaxor nodded. "Few have. They possess technology beyond anything we have encountered, and they have already infiltrated our government at the highest levels. Jenkins and Keeler exchanged a grave look. This changed everything. They had been fighting the wrong enemy all along. "We must stand together against this threat," Jenkins said, his voice firm with resolve. "The Terran Federation and Talaxian Empire united." Keeler nodded, his eyes glinting. "Agreed. We will mobilize our forces, share our technology and intelligence." As the negotiations concluded, Jenkins pulled Keeler aside. "I have a mission for Max," he said quietly. "A joint Terran-Talaxian Special Ops team to gather intel on these Void-bringers." Keeler grinned, showing sharp teeth. "Max will be a symbol of our alliance. He will lead them well." The team assembled quickly, the best of the best from both races. They boarded a sleek stealth ship and set out into the void, Max at the helm in his battle-scarred armor. Their first target was a Talaxian research station, where Voidbringer agents had been detected. They slipped aboard silently, moving through the dimly lit corridors with weapons drawn. Suddenly all hell broke loose. Voidbringer soldiers seemed to melt out of the shadows, their armor a swirling void of black. They opened fire with weapons that spat searing bolts of darkness. Max leaped into the fray, his superhuman speed and strength making him a blur. Zor was at his side, plasma staff whirling as he cut down the enemy. But there were too many. A bolt caught Max in the side, breaching his armor. He stumbled, snarling in pain and fury. Zor saw him fall and charged to his side, staff blazing. He cradled Max's armored form, the light fading from the canine's eyes. "Hold on," Zor growled. "Just hold on." But it was too late. Max, the loyal companion, the hero of the Odyssey, died there in Zor's arms as the battle raged around them. His last sight was the stars beyond the viewport, the ones he swore to protect. Zor threw back his head and roared his grief and rage to the uncaring void. Jenkins, light years away, felt a sudden coldness in his heart. He knew, without knowing how, that his friend was gone. His jaw clenched as iron-hard resolve settled over him. He would finish this fight no matter the cost. For Max and for all the fallen, the Voidbringers would pay. The galaxy would tremble with the fury of the Terrans and Talaxians united, and the Voidbringers, in their arrogance, would learn to fear the name of Max, the hero who united them all. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.